Welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at something I think a lot of people don't really consider, and that is what happens after you say yes to AI. Specifically, today we're going to be looking at CastleGuard AI. Now, a lot of businesses are excited about AI because it can automate a bunch of different tasks, but one of the things that's really overlooked is how do you know it's actually working? So that's what we're going to be diving into today. We're going to be looking at how CastleGuard helps you answer some pretty important questions. Like, how is your team actually using it? Is it actually performing well? And probably the biggest one, is it saving you time and money? What do you think?
Well, you're absolutely right. A lot of companies are really excited about AI, but sometimes they jump in without really thinking about how they're going to track what it's doing or how they're going to measure if it's working or not. And this is where CastleGuard can really help. It comes with this really cool reports dashboard, and it's really like a window into how your team is actually using the AI.
So it's not just like this black box where you're like, okay, I have AI now. You can actually see what's going on.
Exactly. And that's really important because you need to be able to see the data to really understand what's going on.
Okay, so tell me a little bit more about this dashboard. What kind of information can I see?
Sure. So imagine this. You're looking at a chart, and it's showing you how often people are using the AI. You can see if it's being used more and more each day, or if there are certain times when it's used a lot. Like maybe Monday mornings, everyone is using it, or maybe it's pretty steady, that kind of thing.
Okay, so it's almost like you can see if there are trends or patterns in how your team is using AI, which would be pretty helpful for figuring out like if there are any bottlenecks in our workflow.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not just about how often people are using it. You can also see which AI services are the most popular. So some of those might be getting used all the time, while others are kind of neglected.
Oh, I see. So that could be a good way to figure out if you need to do more training for your team on how to use certain features.
Right, because if nobody's using a feature, it might mean they don't know about it, or they don't understand how to use it.
Okay, this is starting to make a lot of sense. So we can see how often AI is being used. We can see which features are the most popular. What about the actual tasks people are using it for? Can you see that level of detail in CastleGuard?
Absolutely. Let's say your team uses CastleGuard for support requests through the chat. You can actually see all the different types of questions people are asking. Like, are they mostly asking about technical stuff, or are they asking about something else?
So you could see if, like, all of a sudden there was this big spike in technical questions. That might tell you need to update your knowledge base or maybe do some more training for your team.
Exactly. You're getting it.
This is cool. So we've talked about, like, the chat features. What about something like translation? Can CastleGuard track usage for that, too?
Definitely. The dashboard actually shows you how much is being translated, whether it's like words or even whole pages or files.
Wow. So you can really get a sense of who your power users are, like who is really using the translation features a lot.
Yeah.
And then you can see if certain teams are maybe getting more value out of it than others.
Exactly. And that's really important because it helps you understand how AI is being adopted across your whole organization.
But it's not just about tracking usage, is it?
Yeah.
I mean, we also need to know if the AI is actually working well.
Yeah.
If it's worth the investment, right?
Absolutely. We can look at all the data about how it's being used, but at the end of the day, it needs to actually be performing well for us to really see the benefits.
So how does CastleGuard help with that?
Well, the reports dashboard actually has a whole section dedicated to performance. It'll show you things like how fast the AI is responding to requests and also any errors that might be popping up.
So I can see, like, if the AI is consistently giving us good answers and if it's doing it quickly.
Exactly. It's all about making sure the AI is reliable and working the way it's supposed to.
Which I think is really important, especially for people who might be a little unsure about AI.
If they can see the data and see that it's working, they're probably going to be more likely to use it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so we've talked about usage and performance, but now I have to ask the question that I think is on everyone's mind, and that is, how do we actually measure the ROI? Like, how much are we actually saving by using this AI?
Yeah, that's the big question, right? Everyone's talking about how AI can save time and money, but how do we actually prove that?
Exactly, because it's one thing to say it, but it's another thing to actually show it.
And that's where CastleGuard really comes in. It actually helps you calculate the ROI, and it does it in a way that's really easy to understand.
Okay, how does it do that?
Well, you just put in some basic information, like how much it costs per hour for someone to do the tasks that the AI is now handling.
Oh, I see. So like if the AI is doing work that a graphic designer would normally do, I would put in the graphic designer's hourly rate.
Exactly. And if you're not sure what to put in for some of the numbers, CastleGuard actually has like some guidelines and default settings, so it's really user-friendly.
Oh, that's good because I'm not exactly a financial whiz. But okay, so I put in those cost numbers.
Yeah.
What happens next?
Well, CastleGuard takes all the information you've given it, like the usage data, the performance stuff, those cost numbers, and it crunches the numbers to create an ROI chart.
So it's like this visual representation of how much money I'm saving each month because of CastleGuard.
You got it.
So we're not talking about vague guesses here. This is actually concrete data showing that my investment in AI is paying off.
Exactly. And imagine showing this data to your boss.
Oh, yeah. That would be pretty convincing.
Yeah.
No more having to, like, guesstimate.
Right. This is real proof that AI is actually helping your bottom line.
I love it. Okay, so we've covered how CastleGuard can help us understand usage, performance, and even the ROI.
And all of that's really important.
But there's another big piece of the puzzle when it comes to AI, and that's user adoption. Like, even if you have the best AI tools in the world, if your team isn't actually using them, you're not going to get the full benefits, right?
You're absolutely right. You can have the most amazing, cutting-edge AI, but if nobody's using it, it's basically useless.
So how does CastleGuard help with that?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is that transparency we were talking about. When people can see the data, they can see how it's being used, they can see the actual ROI, it builds trust.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because when people can see how something is working, they're more likely to embrace it.
Exactly. And then you combine that transparency with the fact that CastleGuard is really easy to use. And it makes it a lot easier for people to get on board.
It's not intimidating.
Yeah, it's not like this scary, complicated system that only the tech people can understand. Anyone can look at the dashboard and get a sense of what's going on.
Which I think is really smart, because then it's not just about providing the data.
It's about making it accessible to everyone.
Exactly.
And when people feel like they understand something, they're more likely to use it.
So you kind of create this culture where everyone feels like they're part of the AI implementation process, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, it's not about forcing AI on people. It's about bringing them along on the journey.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
But I think one of the biggest things that's sticking out to me is this idea that CastleGuard isn't just about implementing AI. It's about giving your team the tools they need to actually master it.
I really like that way of putting it.
It's about moving beyond the hype and focusing on the practical stuff. Like, how do we actually use this to make our work better?
Yeah, that's where the real power of AI lies. And I think CastleGuard does a really good job of helping you get there.
Absolutely.
So if someone wants to learn more about CastleGuard,
Like, really dive into all the features and capabilities,
where should they go?
definitely check out Nextria's website. They have a ton of great information there.
Awesome. We'll make sure to include the link in the show notes. Okay, so to kind of sum everything up,
What are the key takeaways we want our listeners to remember about CastleGuard?
I think first and foremost, it's about transparency. You can actually see how the AI is being used. You can see how it's performing. And you can even see the ROI. It's all right there in front of you.
Exactly. And it's not just about seeing the data. It's about understanding it and then using it to make smart decisions about how you're using AI.
And then the second big takeaway is that it really empowers teams to embrace AI. You know, it's user-friendly, it's accessible.
And when you have those things, you're much more likely to get buy-in from your team.
Exactly.
It's about making sure everyone feels comfortable using AI
That they understand the benefits.
so they can really use it to their full advantage.
And that's how you get the most out of your investment in AI.
Absolutely.
Well, this has been a really insightful conversation.
I'm glad you think so.
I'm already thinking about how we can use some of these ideas with our own team.
I think that's great. It's all about taking these ideas and figuring out how to apply them to your own situation.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for sharing your expertise with us today.
It's been a pleasure.
I'm sure our listeners will find this really helpful as they start to navigate the world of AI.
I hope so.
And to our listeners, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into CastleGuard AI. We hope you learned a lot and that you'll stay tuned for more deep dives in the future.
Thanks for having me.
See you next time.